Hello, folks. I have something fun to show you today. It's kind of good to realize, you may not have a studio and a place to work on a lot of stuff. You can do some awesome artwork with doing little mini things. So you'll see several mini things that I've done. This one right here is an oil and just framed very simply in a little frame. This is a little. Oh, that's from a little picture I took up in the mountains. Just a little watercolor and matted. And I love this. I love doing daisies. And I love doing the dark background around it. And look how simply I've cut the edges and then just simply put it on mat board. It doesn't even have a mat to it. But it's turned out to really be a nice little mini painting. So one of the things I'm showing you today, it's really good to work on several paintings at a time. You can see that I've got a mountain one started here. Here's one with some aspen trees that I've started. And this is a door that's almost finished, not quite, but this was up in the mountains on an old house. And I'm anxious to show you some more stuff that I want to add to that just will make it sharper. And then I drew this little iris just in pencil because I was gonna do this iris on here for you because I had done a large purple iris that just turned out beautiful. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll do that on here. And then the neighbor gave me these beautiful flowers. And when I first painted the picture, because I painted a picture that I showed you earlier from those were just buds, and look at them now. Those red tulips, I don't know what you call them, but they are gorgeous. And just since I woke up this morning, they're opening up more, so they have got to be painted today. The thing that's neat about painting on several things at a time is, say I'm using some green up here, and I know I need green here. I've got a touch of green there. I'm going to use some green on the stems of those tulips. You can have this mixed, and then you can go from place to place to add your green while this one is drying so that you can come back to it. You can add your green over here, and then while that one is drying, you can add your green up there. So it's really neat to do several things at a time. Now, one of the things that I do when I do this, you'll see this is my regular board, and then I use this special tape. And this tape is particularly for artists, and see, you can pull it up like that. So I've marked where I want it. I decided what size I wanted, all these, and then you put the tape in between each picture. And then you're concentrated on each little picture. Then when you're done with all of these, you can take them up and cut them where they belong and put them in nice little frames. And it's a nice little gift to give to somebody. And maybe you'll want to put something on your wall of one of your little things that you've done. So today, because those tulips are going, I'm going to have you watch me. Now, something that I don't ordinarily do, but I'm going to do it today. Now, some other time I'll show you how to do that. Iris, I love doing iris, and they're just an awesome fun flower, and they come in so many different colors and so many shades. But this is such an unusual tulip. Now, one thing about tulips, reds vary so much, and if you really study that, you'll see there's orange in there. Well, there's quite a bit of yellow and kind of a yellow green, but there's some definite different colors of red in there. There's some alizarin crimson underneath, and then there's some orange, and then the little stripes of the yellowish green color. Oh, and they're going fast. But because I want to get my background done, I'm going to do different than what I would ordinarily do because I think I can blend the red with it. I'm just going to simply put this on here just like that. I'm not even wetting it. I'm just putting the yellow on there because it'll go good with my red, but I want it nice and wet. So I'm going to get me some more water, and I'm going to put all of that on there. Now, while it is wet, I'm going to let that dry, and then because I've got something else I want to work on, I'm going to let that dry just a little bit, and we're going to go to some of this green over here, and we are going to do some green on these mountains up here. See this this green that I started and I'm not finished. So I'm going to use some of this green, and this is a different green, and you've probably heard me say that, so I'm going to mix some of this first and we'll mix some of that with it. But I don't like to use most greens straight out of the tube. I really don't. I think they're too harsh. I don't like them. So I usually use my gamboge and my cobalt blue to mix my greens. And so I'm going to add, I can see that there's different colors up there, okay? So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do some green right here. Oh yeah, that's not too shabby. Okay, now it's darker at the bottom, so I'm going to add some more of that dark over here, and then we'll get some more water and we'll pull that with a little bit of this little touch of gamboge. I don't want to use too much. In fact, I probably could use it from that dish. Let's see if I can do it. See if I can pull that up here. Yeah, yep, I can. I can pull that up. And then I'll add a little bit more green to it. And by the time I get done with this, see, then I can go back there and I can work on those tulips. It's really kind of fun to work on several things at a time. And I don't want to go up to that. You know what? I'm going to bring some of this yellow up here at the top of these trees. Because the trees are almost, because of the sun shining on them, that's how it is. They're almost a little bit brighter at the top. So we want that on these little trees over here. But see, I can see I need some more green. So I'm going to come in here with this green. Okay, and because this is damp, see, it's going to just blend up there. Oh, that's nice. Just enough. And then I'm going to, watch me use my little tiny brush. Little tiny. And I'm going to use it straight up in the air. Now look at that. I see this part right here needs pulled. I don't like those lines being in there like that. This is a little tiny painting, and we can come back in and make it more detailed if we want, but I don't want those lines. Now, because I want tiny, tiny lines, remember how when we want something really tiny, we hold our brush straight up in the air, and it'll make a smaller little line. So it's good to do that. Now see, this is already drying right here. So I'm going to bring some more of that green in and so I'm just patting it. See how I'm just patting it? Don't even have to pull it. I'm just patting it a little bit. And I'm going to come back in over here and look. See that yellow? It's not shiny anymore. So it's ready for me to paint. Now, if I had to make sure it was totally dry before I painted on it, you can feel of it. And see, it's still damp. And that's if you really wanted to make sure that it's totally dry. If it's still damp or cool to your hands, then you don't paint on it. But for what I'm painting today, it'll work fine for me to paint. So let's get started. Now look at that. See, now I have that green done. And I just did that because I had my greens. I mixed it up and I'm going to use this green. Well, this time I'm going to come in here with in fact, I think I'll use my number 8 brush. Let's use the number 8 brush because those greens, look at those stems and those leaves on those things. Those leaves on those things are big. In fact, that's not going to be enough green paint. I'm going to mix some more right while I'm at it, and I can always come back into that gamboge if I need to and just use some of that for some of the yellow that I'll need to have for touches on there. But let's put some more cobalt blue in there. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. And see, then I can come back for the cobalt blue and do the shadow. Okay, here we go. Oh my, are those beautiful or what? So this little guy, look at that. Oh, I do like him. Wow. Okay, I'm just gonna kind of draw it with what I see. And you know what? If it's not perfect, it's no big deal if it's not perfect. You know what? It's just paper, guys. Just do it. Just try it. You may find it. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. That didn't turn out too shabby. So now I'm going to come this little leaf from where I'm sitting. It looks like this little leaf is kind of coming around here and back over here. He's coming up like that. Now we'll come back in with the red, but I'm going to just basically draw the green stuff now. And then this guy is coming up here. That's the stem. And it doesn't matter at all if part of my red stuff comes out. In fact, if you've watched my videos, you know that I like to have 3 sides when I mat something or frame it. I like to have 3 sides out, coming out of the frame. I think what it does is it helps you to more focus on the center of your picture. It makes your eye come into the center of your picture, and it just lets you focus on that more. Part of this is so hidden back there, and while this is wet, you know what I'm gonna do? I was gonna just do the green, but I'm gonna take my other little brush, and while it's wet, because that will just blend really nice, I'm just going to take cobalt blue, and I'm just going to do some lines in there right now, just like that, and just let it blend. See how fast it blends away, because it's already wet, and so it just kind of blends, but it kind of makes a nice watercolor look. I kind of like the watercolor look when it blends like that. So that's why I'm doing that for you. Okay, then I'll come back, and we will let's do the leaves on this other one, and that's the one that's so big. Oh my! And its leaves. It's weird how its leaves are sticking out clear over here. They're sticking out clear over here, and I may have to put some more water with that, and I think I'll have to mix some more green in a minute, because it's just, okay, there's a leaf, and there's another leaf coming up like this, and it goes like that, and then it comes over here. You know what? It's good to just draw with your paint. Don't be, and when you first start, maybe you just don't feel comfortable enough but to draw first. And if that's how you're going to learn to paint, go ahead and do it. But I'll just bet you, after you've painted a little while, then you're ready to go ahead and just draw it with your brush. It's just kind of fun. And then you just kind of correct it as you paint, and it's all right. See, these leaves, they are something else, how they kind of hug that tulip. Oh, and this little guy, he's just sticking out over here. Just this little guy in the background. He's just a little leaf. I'm not sure where he's come from. Okay, now, because I don't have the cobalt blue on that, I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt blue here. Oh my, that's a pretty strong shadow, and it is a strong shadow. So I'm leaving that just like that. And then this thing down here, and then down at the bottom. Wow, it's really strong down here. Now, see, that just looks so blue. You think, oh, I don't know if I like that. Well, you'll like it when it's done. You just have to wait till you get some of that other color in there. Oh, and now that I'm seeing it, I'm seeing some real strong yellow. And look, what I am seeing right here is that stem of that thing is going right there, and this stem is going right here. We've got to have something to put, and this little guy is right there. Okay, now I think while this is still wet, I'm gonna look. I've got 2 brushes. It's all right. I'm gonna use some of this gamboge right here. I'm going to use some of that right here at the bottom. It's amazing how the light is shining right up there through those. And then we'll put some of that grass stuff around it. that won't be too shabby, I don't think. Well, you know, when it's outside, we don't have to worry about that. But that's, and then I see light shining right there. It's really obvious, the light shining right there. Then we'll do a little bit of ink on it, and that'll kind of highlight it when we get it all done. But I think I'm ready to start some of those tulips. Oh, I'm anxious to do that. Now, one of the things about doing the red, and I know it'll be like this, I will paint on this thing today with you guys, and then what's going to happen to me is I'm going to think, I'll set that thing up there, and I will see more red spots, more yellow spots that I have to add. The thing is, when you're doing your watercolor, you have to realize that as you do it, the thing really does, it lessens in its colors. As it dries, it really does, it just goes softer and softer and softer. So that's why you have to do so many colors to make it as dark as it should be. So I will probably find some other colors that I want to do. Now you'll see that little guy, he doesn't have very much red on him. Now probably by tomorrow he'll be quite red, but today he's mostly just kind of yellowish green and just some touches of red. But there's red up in those others. So I'm gonna see if I can paint this thing for you guys. And you can see this one red over here, he's going to be coming clear out of the picture because that's just the way he is today. Okay, now this is poppy. I'm doing poppy. Look how roughly those things are. And I do want to be careful that I'm saving some of the space, because some of these petals really do have quite a bit of yellow on it. Some of the petals don't seem to have much yellow on it, and I don't know exactly why that is. Now, it's just like when I did these tulips earlier. You know, we're going to have to do a little bit of pen and ink around them to define the petals, because, boy, the petals are something else. They are just so full. It's hard to tell where one stops and another one starts. Okay, now then there's one over here clear in the background of that one. And see, with my paint being kind of, I'm going to leave some of that because I want to put a little bit of yellow in there. Oh, and then look at this little guy. This little guy sticking out of here. I can't believe how roughly those things are. They are something else. Now, as soon as I get a little bit more of this red done, then I'm going to go in there with some yellow. It's kind of funny. It's like this little guy is, it's kind of, these are so close together, it's kind of hard to tell where the yellow starts and the red starts. There's some red there, and it's just a little red hanging down here. While this is wet, I do believe I'm going to come in here with my little tiny brush, and I'm going to put new gamboge on there. I'm going to just, and I think that is not the right color. Right there, I know that. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the real yen. Let's see if that's good. I may need to wait till, I think I might need to wait till this dries. I think I'm not going to do more of that. I'm going to put my finger on there and I can just kind of blot it. I'm gonna do some more red on this other one. Let's paint this other red thing while we've got my brush all red in it. Let's paint this big guy. Oh my. And he is really showing his stuff. Look at this. This one petal is hanging out clear over here. In fact, it actually runs into this other one. It's running into this other little flower. And then he's red, and then he's going to be gold there, so I'm going to leave that. Okay, and then there's a big, big petal sticking clear up in the air, way up here, up high. Okay, so, oh, I wish you could see this because it's so neat. Oh my, he's something else. Boy, there's quite a bit of yellow in this. You know, I think what must happen is as this thing opens up, it's more of the yellow shows. That's what the deal is. because these ones that are open, they seem to have a lot more yellow on it. They have little finger things hanging out over here. And now what I'm going to do, yeah, see, it's because that yellow over there is kind of, it's kind of blending into the red, and I don't like that. So we'll learn. You know what? You learn by doing. I have to tell you, have I ever? I don't think I've ever painted. Well, now I take that back. I do have a picture in the other room where I painted a red tulip, but I don't usually paint a red tulip. Oh my, this is amazing. I wonder what God thought about when he was painting this, when he was making these red tulips, because they have so much stuff on them. Oh my. Maybe he was using leftover paint or something, you suppose? I don't know. But he had something in mind, and I think he had in mind somebody, Verla Harrell in Colorado, that wanted to paint tulips. I had a sense of humor. Oh my, I'm liking that. I'm going to come back here where I did that yellow, because I don't like how that yellow is. We'll have to see. That's the advantage, guys, of working on more than one at the same time. Okay, now that I've done those, I'm going to come down and do this little bit of red for this guy. Oh, and it can't be too much because he doesn't have very much red. He's going to be mostly, oh, you know what? When I wake up tomorrow, I have to be honest, I may have to make this guy a little bit bigger tomorrow morning, because I can just bet you when I wake up in the morning, he's going to have red all over him, and he'll be showing his stuff, and I'm not seeing it today, but there's plenty of yellow on there. Okay, now while that's drying, because I've got to come in with some other colors of red. Oh my, I've got to. Oh. And now I want to tell you something else while I've got this red on here. You know, whenever you paint a flower, if you would notice on the last video that I did for you, and they had pink flowers, there was also the touch of the pink on the green leaves. And the reason that is because those leaves right next to the flower, they reflect that flower. So, because I have rinsed out my brush, but I still have some red on there, I'm going to put some reflection of this red on the leaves, because they show, they reflect. It is crazy how much those leaves and the stem will reflect for the stuff from the flowers. It's just the way it works. When anything is close to it, well, can't tell that with my blue shirt, but you do. It just reflects. Okay, now I think I need to let those dry a little bit more so that I can come back in there with the yellow. So while that's happening, let's go up here to this little door. I love this little door, and if you look at it very carefully, you can see that there are some little lace curtains hanging out in that window. Right on the other side of that window, there's some little lace curtains. So I'm gonna fix some of this blue-gray right here. I've got some right on my palette, and I'm gonna roll my little tiny brush in it, and I want those curtains to show off more. So remember, when I'm doing little tiny lines, I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna do this little lace curtain. I'm gonna get that little lace curtain to shine through there. I don't know who lives in that house, but this little door is up in the mountains, and it must have been Valentine's Day, and they probably are like me. They like to put seasonal wreaths and stuff on their door. And so they have this little heart on there with some little red flowers. So I'm gonna brighten that up a little bit with some of my green in just a minute. But see, this is gonna show that little lace curtain a little bit more. Now I gotta remember, Verla, hold your brush straight up, because if you don't do that, what you end up doing is you get too big of lines. And that's not pretty. That won't look like lace if it's not. And see, I'm just making little squiggly lines. It doesn't have to be exact. It'll give the idea that, yeah, there's lace curtains coming out of that door. Okay, now because I have some green over here mixed up, and see, I used it on the trees, and I can see that that has dried too much, so I'm going to come back in there. While I'm doing the green, I'm going to darken that up a little bit more. But I'm going to come back in here with my green, and I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt blue. I'd like that a little bit brighter. Yeah, that's okay. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to brighten up this little wreath so that it's going to show a little bit more, because it's so pretty. And it was just in a little heart shape. So I don't know if they took twigs from out in their garden and made this thing or what, but it was so pretty. And had all these little, oh, I took this early in the morning with the sun shining on there. Now you can see I need some red on those little flowers. But because my green is wet, I'm going to let that dry. And then I will come back to it with some of the poppy and maybe some alizarin crimson. But look at that little place up there where I need to put some more green in there because it's lightened up too much. So here we go with some green. We'll just keep doing that till that's the right. So I'm just going to kind of pat it. I don't have to do a lot of painting because I want it to look more like these others do. Okay? Oh, wow. Now, it looks so dark. It looks like it's too dark. But you know what? I don't think it will be. I think when it lightens up and it dries, it'll be all right. So let's leave it. Now, I think these are ready for me to put some more color in. So when I look at these, I want to put that yellow in there while that's dry enough, and then I will come back and put some other color reds in because I do want some more reds in there. And I see some alizarin crimson underneath here, and the way the light's shining through, there's some orange on there. I mean, just flat orange. And to me, that's not red enough. But very often, when you can't get it dark enough for what you want, you can do layers and layers and layers of the same color. If you saw some of my little strawberries that I did before, that painting had 9 layers, and most of the time you're using the same color. Very, very often you're using the same color, and it just helps to darken it. And because these are transparent paints, it helps the part underneath to reflect through. But let's put some yellow on there now. I'm going to come over here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some of this Aurelian with the new Gamboge. I don't want it quite as bright as that. Yeah, there we go. That's better color. Right there. Better color. I can tell right now it's better color. Boy, when you look at those and then you look at that stamen, my stamen hardly shows, but it does a little bit. And it's a little bit lighter. I'll put that up there. But now you know what I'm probably going to do to touch up that stamen is I'll probably use my watercolor pencils. That's what I'll use. But I'm going to put in some of this yellow because we've got yellow around on these flowers that's just absolutely incredible. There's quite a bit of yellow. Now I'm gonna try to be kind of careful not to go too much into the red because I don't want that red to bleed. Now it seems to me that there's some of this yellow kind of just peeking out of the bottom. And if you're a tulip person and you see that I missed places where this would have the yellow, you're just going to have to forgive me. I'm sorry, but I love painting it. So I'm kind of just painting what I see. Is that all right? I think we'll just have to get by with that today. Now you'll notice I'm rolling my brush. I'm rolling my brush in that paint. You always get more paint on your brush if you roll it. If you just roll it around. Yeah, see there? Now there doesn't seem to be as much yellow on this one as there is on that great big one. And why that is, I don't know. You know, they're just like us. They're all different, you know. We don't have all the same thing. It's all right to be different, you know. It's we don't have to be like somebody else. You be who you are. It's good to be who you are. That's the way God made you, and He likes you the way you are. So just be who you are, and just be thankful that you can. Well, right now I'm thankful I can paint one of His tulips. I am. Now I'm going to come down to this little guy. I'm going to put the yellow in there, but you know, there's quite a bit of green around that yellow. It's almost more greener than it is yellow. So I'm going to put a touch of the yellow, but then I'm going to put in, well, it's kind of a chartreuse green. It's kind of a funny green. There's a little bit of yellow right out here hanging out at the edge. Okay, now while that's all drying, I'm going to come in and we are going to do some ink stuff just for fun, just to touch up those. Oh my, I do like those stems, but I like to have them, and I'm not going to do them exact, but I'm gonna do them just so they kind of show off where they are, and then we'll come back in and then we'll put some base on them. We don't want these things floating. We got to show that they're in a pot, okay? So we're gonna fix a pot for them, and it'll just be a little shape. You know, you don't have to say a lot to say what something is. That's crazy, you know? You think you got to do the whole thing? Well, you don't always have to do the whole thing. Sometimes just doing the top of it will just show it off. And then you let people just do their imagination for the rest of it. Oh, you know, while I've got some red, you know what? I promised you I would come down here on this wreath. I've got to put some red in that little wreath. Oh, I've got to do that right there. And we'll let that dry. And then we'll see if that's enough. It may dry too much because it had dried too much. So those little red flowers of whatever those are. Okay. Now, while that red up there and that yellow is drying a little bit, I'm going to come in here with some cobalt blue on that door. That door needs some sharpening up. So what I'm going to do is I'm using my little tiny brush, and I'm going to do some, remember when we talked about dry brush? Well, this time, because it's such a little tiny brush, I'm just going to come in here and I'm just going to kind of just do it flat like that. Just kind of, so it kind of accents that door a little bit more. And that's the thing, when you're working on several pictures like this, you see other stuff that you want to do, and it just helps you. Oh, I can do that right now because I've got the paint, I've got what I need. How about that? Is that crazy how that makes that door show off? It really does. It's not a lot, but it's just a tiny bit. I want a little bit up here at the top. Wow. And you know how I like to do the mountains. Boy, I'd like to come down to that, but it's just, and you know something? Looking at this, that's the other thing. While I'm looking at this, well, then I see up here in those mountains, those things need some shadow. So right while I've got stuff on my little brush, I'm going to do just a little dry brush right here. I'm just going to do just a little bit. Doesn't have to be a lot. I'm going to roll my brush and I'm going to come up here. And then when I've done that, then I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to wet it with just water, and then we'll pull it. It just needed a little bit of something in those mountains. That wasn't quite enough. Okay, so now I've rinsed out my brush and I'm going to pull it with my finger just to take part of that water off of there. And then I'm just going to blend those so that they aren't so liney looking. It'll just kind of soften it. Oh my word, those mountains look so much better. They just needed a touch. They didn't need hardly anything. I like them. Yeah, that's a good thing. Now, I may decide it needs more later, but not right now. Okay, let's come back to these tulips. Now I'm going to wet my brush really, really good, and I am going to take some of this alizarin crimson. Now that's a strong, strong color. So I'm going to put some of that right there. Alizarin crimson is it's a neat one to use even for pink, watered way down. But I am going to use it here. And while I'm doing that, I am going to have my paper towel ready, because if it's too dark, I can blot it right away. Now, there's not a lot of place where there's alizarin crimson, so I'm just going to do a little bit. There's some right here in that leaf right there, and it's not hardly showing up, so I'm going to put more on my brush. See if oh, there we go. Now I've got enough on my brush, because you want it to show. Don't. Oh, and then this leaf right here, it's got quite a bit of shadow of alizarin crimson. Right here, it's like the way the shadow is on that thing. So I'm going to roll my brush again, and I will study. Okay, this one right here has quite a bit of alizarin crimson on it, and you just kind of swish it around. Don't try to blend it all around when you're doing these flowers, because you just need it to kind of accentuate your poppy color. But you know, whenever you put some dark on something, it helps the light to shine up. It just does. It's just the way it works. Now this has some alizarin crimson up here at the top, and just a little line again. Okay, let's go over to this other tulip and see. Oh my. See, now I hadn't even seen that, but it's got real strong alizarin crimson right there. And I didn't see that. Now I'm going to be careful. I don't want to get into my yellow, so I'm trying to be careful where I'm going. And then it's got alizarin crimson on this little guy. Wow. Okay. Boy, it seems like they change. I don't know if the light changes or if it's just me looking at it different. Now this one in the front, it has more alizarin crimson. I think I'm liking that. I'm going to put a little touch, very little, of that down here on this little guy, because he hasn't opened up, so he really isn't showing his color yet. But you know what? He needs some chartreuse green. Oh boy. So I need to have some of this yellow, and this time I'm going to use some of this green that is it's a different kind of a green, but it'll make me a nice chartreuse color. And I think that's about the only one that needs to have that. It's this little guy that needs to have that bright green on there. Isn't that pretty? Oh my. Boy, when you start putting it on, then you see, yeah, that's exactly what I needed. That's what was showing, and we didn't see it. You know what? I'm going to take a little bit of that green. I'm going to put a little bit of that on these leaves, because that's kind of a pretty green, I think. I think it needs just a touch. Wow. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. It's time for me to put some base on this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this big brush, and I'm just going to mix. This is crazy. I'm just going to mix a bunch of these colors together. That makes a combination of all kinds of colors. How's that? Sometimes that just works, just to mix some of those colors. And I'm going to pretend like this is a pot underneath here. Now, the pot's got to be back up here, because see, it's got stuff in it. So I'm going to make little lines there, and I'm going to make the pot come clear out. We aren't even going to make him so and I'm not even going to worry about coming up here on the leaves, because what I'll do in just a minute, you watch me, and I'm going to put some of this color right up in the leaves, and you won't even know that I cheated with that. And I'm just going to put some of that color right up here. Now I don't want to go clear up into the background, because this is just his way of sitting. Now what I'm going to do, you know, if you've been watching me, you know that I like dark colors in the corners. I'm not going to worry about that up there today. But I'm going to, how many times have I used cobalt blue? Many, many times. So I'm going to mix that in the corners. I'm going to go up here to the greens, and I'm going to just kind of swish it around. That's about all I'm going to do. I'm going to do some more blue. I want that a little bit darker in the corners, and that just makes it good. Now, what I'm going to do is why not? I mean, when you've got some watercolor pencils, why not use them? So now I'm going to take some of this and I'm just going to blend it. And I'm just going to blend it like it's got grass and stuff, like that other little guy with the, well, see all that stuff that's sticking up out of there? It sticks up out all over the place. So I'm just going to swish around this little pencil because it's wet here, and it'll keep it kind of going, and it makes it look like it's sitting on something. It's sitting right in that stuff, and that's about all it needs. Now, because this is kind of dry in the flowers, what I'm going to do now, I like to accentuate those little petals. We need to see where they really are. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to look at where they are up there. This is a little guy that's separate, so I'm going to separate him out. There's a guy. Oh my. I don't know if these flowers have a certain amount of petals or not. I don't know how that works. It would be interesting to try to count them and see how much there be, because I don't know if there's just a certain amount of petals per thing. Look at that guy. He's clear up there all by himself, sticking up way out there. And then this guy's back here. Oh, and he's got a little thing there. This will just help it to show that these petals are all separate. I mean, there's quite a bit of them, so I'm not trying to outline all of them. I'm just trying to make them so. I'm going to put a little line there so we can see that's the stem. Okay, now I'm going to put just a few little lines over here of this little guy, and then the next time you see this, you know what? I've made that thing grow up. I kind of think this is enough. I think it is. Well, I don't know if you've enjoyed this as much as me, but I sure have had fun. Oh, I love those tulips. Maybe you can watch me next spring, and we'll see how those tulips bloom, because I would love to see what they do. You enjoy your spring. Watch for those things coming up out of the ground. You have a good spring. If you enjoyed the video, give me a like, and I'd appreciate you subscribing to my channel. Thank you.